Welcome back to Blues Focus TV for yet another episode of Under the Scope. Today we'll be focusing on Odin Bailey, and I'm joined by Talk Livi. How are you, mate?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. As I was saying to you just before recording, I was in Dublin over the weekend for my brother's stag do, so I'm slightly more human now. I'm glad this recording was at 7 o'clock rather than earlier on today or yesterday, to say the least. But other than that, all good. What about yourself?
I'm not too bad, thanks, mate. I went to the Solihull Moors semi-final playoff yesterday. That was really good. They're in the National League playoff final now, so hopefully they can get up to the Football League. It's a bit of a local Birmingham side, so it's just football to go and watch while the season's off. So
I know I'm already missing it, but I've got all the Scotland games coming up, which will keep me occupied for at least another couple of weeks for sure.
that'll be amazing. Yeah, hopefully you can get through, and it'll be interesting to play you in the group again. But yeah, we'll see what happens. So we're here to talk about Odin Bailey, probably one of our more promising talents over the years, but he's just never really been given the chance at Blues under any recent managers. So my first question to you would be, what was your initial reaction when Livingston signed Odin Bailey? Were you quite intrigued, excited? How were you feeling?
Well, I mean, with a name like Odin, you've got to be pretty special, I have to say. Father of Thor. But nah, I mean, when we signed Odin, I think the reaction from our fans was a bit mixed. And the reason for that is because one of our kind of fan favourites at the club over recent years, a lad called Josh Mullen, went out on loan to Hamilton Accies, and I think it came as a bit of a surprise for our fans. I mean, he was involved in our back-to-back promotions up to the Premiership, and then played a big part in us getting to the League Cup final last season. So I think when Odin came in, he was essentially the direct replacement, because Josh played out on the right-hand side, and that's where Odin's played. But after 4 or 5 games, once he got up to kind of the pace of Scottish football, because I think sometimes Scottish football does get a little bit ridiculed down south and that it's rubbish, but I think there are players that come up here and really struggle, and it's because the pace of the game is quite fast and it can take a little bit of time. There's a couple of other loan players we've had that have come from down south that have struggled this season. So I think after he got 4 or 5 games under his belt, you really started to see that he's a talented lad with what I expect to be quite a bright future.
That's always good to hear. I was actually going to ask you, sort of appearance-wise, what was your initial reaction when he made his first appearance for Livingston?
Very confident on the ball. Technically, really, really good. I'd go as far as saying technical ability-wise, probably the best that we had last season. To be totally honest with you, his ball retention's so good on the ball. His close control and stuff like that is very good. And I just thought he was really exciting to watch. Everyone loves a player that goes to take people on, don't they? You know, it gets fans off their feet and stuff like that. And I think Odin's that type of player. We had 2 very good wingers last season, and Odin and Alan Forrest as well, who's out of contract at our end. And Joel Nubley came in for the second half of the season after his loan spell at Arbroath. So Odin found himself maybe a little bit more in and out the side when Joel came in, because again, he played predominantly on the right-hand side when he came back to the club. So, but yeah, I have to say, very exciting player to watch.
That's good to hear. Good to hear. I mean, Odin, Blues fans, even pre-season last season, we're just hoping that he get given a chance. I think we've always wanted Odin to get given a chance ever since he scored a winner against Middlesbrough in a night game a couple of years ago. Some great scenes when he jumped into the crowd. It's just never really kicked off for him since then. You know, a lot of our players at the club, like George Friend, have spoken about the talent that he has and the ability, but he just never seems to get given the opportunity. But I do think he's had a contract extension, so hopefully he'll get at least one more season, preferably this season, to show what he's got. I mean, when I looked at his numbers on the face of it, 31 appearances in the league, 3 goals, 2 assists. I thought, okay, they're all right numbers, but I wasn't sure what kind of reaction I'd get from you. So I'm quite intrigued to hear that it's positive.
I think the numbers, Thomas, I would probably say that's my one thing I would say Odin maybe needs to add a little bit more end product, because as you say, 3 goals, 2 assists for a creative player, you're probably looking to try and get that a little bit higher. I mean, if you compare that with Alan Forrest, who played on the opposite side, he was 7 goals, 5 assists last year, which is probably more what you're looking for from your wide players in particular. But Alan had been at the club the season before and again was used to Scottish football, so Odin kind of had to hit the ground running. But as I say, he's a very, very exciting player to watch. Just as I say, he's one of those players that fans would like to watch, and I think he became quite a firm fans' favourite. I think out of the loan players we had this year, definitely by far and away the brightest one out of the lot.
That's good to hear. Yeah, no, I think that was sort of the impression I got. I was like, okay, sometimes you get loan players that make a really good impact, but their numbers aren't quite there. I think we could say that this season with Tahith Chong, instantly became a fan's favourite. His technical ability was out of this world. We shouldn't have really had a player of his quality coming from Man United to Birmingham City. Yeah. It was quite shocking at the time. But he was fantastic. However, his numbers on the face of things weren't actually that great. So yeah, but it's one of them really. And I suppose still talking about the way Odin has adjusted to Scottish football, how did he fit into the system at Livingston? And I know you said he's a very technical player. What would you say was his playing style and how did it fit in?
So we played a 4-3-3 predominantly last year with 2 wide players that came inside. So Odin would play out on the right-hand side. Alan Forrest would be the other side. And ball into feet, take players on. That was the type of player I would class Odin as. He was quite confident to go either way as well. I know he's left-footed, but he was happy to try and go on the outside as well, which I quite like from a winger. I hate almost a predictable winger that's going to do the same thing every time. I like a player that can, try and take a man on both ways. So, yeah, he was very good at that. As I say, his close control was frighteningly good, and players would struggle to get the ball off him because of that. It was like the ball was tied to his like the laces were tied around the ball at times. It was very difficult to get the ball off him because his close control and his technical ability was that good.
That's great to hear. I think we lack those sort of players at Blues, to be honest, at the moment. We're in a bit of a tough situation. We don't have much money to spend. We're in limbo with owners, whether we're going to get new ownership or not. So we've not really got any investment. We've lost loan players. We've lost a couple of players at the end of their contract. So we're quite a thin squad. So I'm hoping this season, although it might not be the most positive season, come the end of the season, Odin will be able to get his chance. It's certainly a season where I think the young players will have a big part to play. And amongst that young bunch, he's probably one of the more senior ones these days. So I think this is sort of a now or never moment for Odin going into next season at Blues. So yeah, I suppose obviously we spoke about the numbers, and you said you could probably add to that game, add that to his game. Would you say he underperformed or overperformed to your expectation at the start of the season, come the end of the season?
I think, as I say, because of who he was replacing in terms of Josh Mullen. I mean, Josh Mullen's nickname was the postman because he always delivers. I mean, like that's the sort of his record for assists and his quality in terms of crossing the ball was frighteningly good at our level. And so, as I say, Josh was a really firm fans' favourite. But I think Odin gave you something a little bit different from what Josh does, because Josh predominantly played out on the right-hand side, but was right-footed, kind of maybe a bit more old-school winger in terms of getting crosses in from the byline, whilst Odin gave you something a little bit different. And I think the other quality that Odin had, because he was so good at carrying the ball, especially maybe away from home at times, it took a little bit of pressure off us. If we were, trying to see a game out for a result, because he could carry the ball up the park for you, 20, 25 yards, which, as I say, it's a great quality to have, taking that little bit of pressure off you when you're trying to see games out. So he was very good at that as well, to be fair to him.
Yeah, that's a good trait to have, because we don't actually have many confident players on the ball at all. It's probably one of our weakest parts. It's bad when you have to rely on some of your central defenders to hold the ball for you sometimes, or at least take it forward. So we're definitely lacking in depth there. My next question to you would be, do you feel he's ready for the Championship?
I reckon he's capable of it. I know he had a season in League Two with Forest Green Rovers, which I think probably played a part in him coming to us, because Nicky Cadden, who's at Forest Green, was with us during the back-to-back promotions in our first season back in the top flight. So I think they would have played with each other there, so probably put in a good word. And I think you guys must have been training up at St Andrews last pre-season, so I think it all happened quite quickly in the end, the move, because we were able to go up and get the deal done. But yeah, I think he's capable of it. As I say, having watched him this year, I think he's got the attributes to be successful at that level. As I say, he's only 22. So, you talk about, I always find wide players can be a little bit inconsistent at times, and that maybe reflects in their numbers as well in terms of assists, goals, things like that. But I think if he's given a run in the team and given a little bit of time, I think he's capable of stepping up to Championship level.
Definitely, and hopefully he is given that chance under Bowyer or whoever our manager will be at the start of next season. Again, I have absolutely no idea. Definitely a club very much in limbo, which you never know, might benefit Odin, to be fair, but we'll see. It would be very classic Blues to sell one of our talents without actually giving him an opportunity. It's something we've done on many, many occasions. So I suppose on that note, if you had the opportunity to bring him back to Livingston next season, would you?
I'd take him back. I would definitely take him back. I said to you when I was messaging you guys back and forth about organising this, I'd said that he'd become a bit of a firm fan's favourite whilst he was there. And I've raved about him on the podcast repeatedly. I think he's such an exciting player to watch. And I think the players that we've lost this summer are predominantly our wide players, in terms of Odin going back to you guys, and Alan Forrest contracts up as well. So it's probably the position that we are going to need to look to strengthen in, but better the devil you know at times, isn't it? So I think Odin showed a lot of promise, and I know Davy Martindale very briefly mentioned about looking to maybe try and get him back on loan. Whether that would materialise or not, I don't know, even if it's just for the first half of the season to again give him some more development time with ourselves. But yeah, I would definitely take Odin back in a heartbeat. As I say, he's become, I raved about him enough on the podcast. I need to say we would take him back after all that.
It's behind your computer screen. Is there like a Odin Bailey mural there, or
yeah, just a large cardboard cutout?
Lovely stuff. Yeah, no, I wouldn't surprise me if we needed the money, which we probably do. If the deal was right, then it wouldn't shock me, even if it was to go back on loan again, just to reduce the wage bill. Anything's possible with Blues at the moment. I mean, obviously, I hope not. I'd like to see him given a chance, but also, if he did leave the club, I'd like him to go somewhere where he'll get football and, have a good career. And he can only really get better at the age he's at. So I'm sure he'd probably take a move back to Livingston if things didn't work out at Blues. But yeah, and
speaking to the boy that works for the local paper up here, I think he's said that Davies mentioned about how Odin's enjoyed his time up here as well. And I think it's because he's got that regular football and he's been, pretty much a mainstay in the side for the majority of the season. So I don't think it would be much hesitation if he was to get the opportunity to come back up here if the option to get game time at Birmingham wasn't available for him.
Definitely. And, he's well above youth academy level now as a player as well. And I think for Odin, all he's ever wanted is game time. He got a fair bit of time in Forest Green Rovers playoff run a couple of seasons ago, but still not even close to the amount of time he's had on the pitch at Livingston. So I'm sure that will be an attractive offer as well for him, especially with you losing wingers. The position is there to be taken. So that game time is almost guaranteed. So it would be hard to turn that down if the offer came in, I'm sure, on his part. My last question for you is, if you had to rate the signing out of 10 come the end of the season now, what would you give it a rating out of 10?
I'd give it an 8 out of 10.
Solid.
Give it an 8 out of 10. Solid 8 out of 10. I think, as I say, because of who he was coming in to replace, he was under a lot of pressure from the get-go from our fans because he had a couple of bad games here or there in his first couple of appearances, the fans would have been on his back at Livi. I can assure you of that. So I think he became a fan's favourite. Only reason he's maybe not higher than that is maybe just the numbers, as we spoke about.
Definitely,
I think if he added another couple of goals, albeit a couple of the goals he scored were pretty special, so he is more than capable of producing magical moments at times. So yeah, 8 out of 10 I would give him.
Lovely stuff. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, mate. And you never know, if he goes back on loan again, I might be catching up with you again sometime soon. But thank you very much for that. And everyone who's tuned in, thank you for tuning in. And make sure you go and check out Talk Livi in the description. And maybe you can go and watch some of those raves about Odin. But yeah, thank you very much, mate. It has been a joy to chat to you. And I wish you all the best of luck for next season as well.
Oh, thanks very much for having me on. Same to yourselves. Best of luck for next season as well.
Thank you very much. I'll keep an eye on you. As for everyone who tuned in, thank you. Please like, subscribe, and keep right on.